Hello, it's diplomatic license time, and my name is Apioko. You are watching City TV. Now today, it gets a little bit interesting because I speak to the man who says his job is all about sex and everything sexual, the country rep for the United Nations Population Fund, the UNFPA, His Excellency Nie Ojolape. I hope I got that right. He's a Nigerian man, Nigerian brother, and you know when Ghanaians and Nigerians meet, it's not just jollof wars. There are other conversations to have. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
The privilege and pleasure is really mine.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So we're going to have some lunch. We're here at Alisa Hotel. We'll have some Nigerian food in honor of my guest. And then from there, it can only get better. This is Diplomatic License on City TV. We'll be right back. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we're here, and like I said, we're going to have some lunch. Well, there's a pool table. Do you play?
I used to.
Are you good?
I've not had the luxury of playing anymore because I wasn't good at it.
Well, I have a similar story.
Yeah.
I have a similar story. But let's talk about you. I mean, if you're not good at playing pool, you're obviously good at playing other things.
Something else.
What are some of the sports you like to play?
Actually, talking about table sports, I play table tennis.
Okay.
I'm not super good, but then on the average, I'm better than an average player.
I have a feeling that you're super good.
I'm better than an average player. So,
okay,
yes.
okay. And what are some of the other things you like to do? I know you love life, you like to explore culture, you know. Yeah.
I also play football.
Okay.
In my days, I used to play football. I'm not the best at it, but then I used to, and I watch football. I follow football globally. And what else? I also play a bit of basketball. Okay. I have young children.
So you have the height for it.
Who like basketball. There's one of my boys who likes basketball a lot.
Okay.
So in our home, we have a small basketball court, so we'll play.
Okay, so let's go back to your childhood. Let's start from there. You're Nigerian. You say you like football, so of course I'm sure you like the Nigerian national team. What are some of the football teams that you grew up watching and loving?
I grew up in a town called Akure. Akure is a capital of Ondo State in Nigeria.
Okay.
In
Okay,
Nigeria,
so you're from
we have
Ondo State.
36 states. Yes.
Okay.
So Ondo State is one of the states in the southwestern part of Nigeria. So that was where I grew up. And growing up, the most natural thing is for a child to play football. Because everywhere, in primary school, secondary school, everywhere you see a football. We easily convert everywhere to football. And I recall the golden moments of the Super Eagles as it used to be. I recall it was Green Eagles at some point in time, and then they moved to being Super Eagles. And then I was following all the disappointments and also the victories are followed very well. I can tell you stories about that. And I recall also, particularly in 1982, there was a World Cup in 1982. That was a watershed moment because I watched almost every match of World Cup in 1982, which was won by Italy.
You know, I'm going to put you on the spot. How old were you in 1982?
Okay, because I mentioned 1982.
Yes. And you remember vividly. So you must have been old enough to remember and
yes.
to
No, that
appreciate
was just a small boy. I was 12.
You're 12.
In 1982.
So you're 50 years old. Oh my goodness. I don't believe this. No. So you know, I heard that you were born in 1970. Let me confess.
Yeah.
But I looked at all your pictures. I remember seeing you, the meetings. I'm like, this gentleman doesn't look 50. It must be a lie. You're confirming this to me.
Yes, that's what I come across everywhere. And now, you see, my work in the area of gender and gender advocacy, I come to it from the point whereby we see people people discriminate against women based on their gender. True. Because they are women, they believe that they will not be able to do this, they will not be able to achieve this or that. And there's a personal touch to it for me, because when people see me also, they look at me as young, and I will not be able to do what adults do. So I also get discriminated against, and then so that's why I come to it.
But that's interesting, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about how you managed to keep yourself looking so young and fresh. But let's travel back to Ondo State. Yeah. What was it like growing up? I mean, what were your parents like? Did you have siblings? You know, what was 1970s Nigeria like?
Well, you know, I started off, I'm from you wouldn't really call it a polygamous, but we had different mothers, okay. Of same father.
Yeah, it's popular in Africa.
Yes. And I started off living with my mom. Okay. And that was where I got the basic discipline that I got from, because she used to deal with me a lot. Even though I was a very, very quiet young person, but then she wanted me to make it to be good. So, and the language that we used to understand in those days is the language of beating children to get them to understand. That's the form of discipline. That, of course, things are changing these days because we understand it better. So I grew up, and I went to perhaps the best primary school in the state, and also so I was privileged in that form. And then also the secondary school that I went was one of the best. It was a federal government college in Idoani, and so I had the opportunity, because my father is a judge. He's a retired judge, and so in terms of privileges, we had that. But then I can also tell you what it means not to be privileged. Because in the environment in which I grew up, where my mom was, it wasn't really a privileged neighborhood. Okay. But then in the course of time, I moved in with my father, and then I was able to enjoy a bit. And then I also know what it is like. So I'm very well-rounded. When you talk about the lower people in the society, the middle class, and also the nouveau rich also, I've had cause to mix with everybody. But as a child, I enjoyed the warmth and the support of my mom. God bless her. So she's actually going to be with the Lord. But my father is still alive, and my father is 94 this year, and he's still very strong. Wow. And
you're still in touch with him?
Oh yeah. And he's a very disciplined. I mean, he's a disciplinarian. He took care of us, and he's also a very, very kind man. So that was the circumstances in which I grew up. I have 8 siblings. 8? So
you're 9 in total?
Yeah, we're 9 in total.
Wow. What number are siblings.
You? Yeah, I'm number 3 actually. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. And so did you get to interact with your siblings often? Because you mentioned that you had different mothers. Were you your mother's only child?
I was my mother's only child by my father.
Your father.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm the solo one in the entire
big ocean.
And I have all my siblings are still alive and intact. We have one that is almost 70 years old. I have another one that is 53 this year, and then I have junior ones also that are still just in their 30s.
So growing up, I mean, so when you say you are 9 siblings, these are your father's children?
Yes.
Okay, so your mom had other children.
I also have another set of siblings on that side, yes.
Wow. So what was it like balancing the two? I mean, I'm sure your experience is something that a lot of Ghanaians and Africans can relate to. Yeah. And even people, in the Western world too, and you have step families, mixed families, blended families, as they call them now. But what was the experience like for you?
You see, I always consider myself as very privileged. I mean, very blessed in so many ways. Why? Because on both sides of the divide, like my father and my mother, I happen to be like the pillar, the one that everybody runs to. I'm the one that also probably, I mean, with every sense of modesty, that's the kind of that receives everybody, and I have the kind of emotional and sentimental balancing with which to accommodate everybody in so many ways. So with that, my siblings on both sides, and not just even the siblings, also the extended family
the
in different
and
the cousins. I'm the one that brings everybody together. If everybody wants to do something, I'm the one that everybody points to. But since in the last number of years, about 11, 12 years now that I've been living outside Nigeria, it has not been that easy to agglomerate everybody. But even then, I still play a lot of role in that.
Oh, absolutely, because I mean, recently you traveled all the way to Nigeria for a wedding.
Yes,
of an extended family member. I thought that was so fascinating, and you know.
Not just that. I travel. I mean, being in Ghana has been a very good opportunity for me to reach Nigeria quite easily, and so all of these ceremonies are always there. They're coming. I'm going to be traveling in about a week or two, just to go. But then you see, I have also the opportunity of traveling the same day and coming back
the same day.
So, and I'll have all the events, do everything that I have to do. You know, most of the events happen on Saturdays.
Of course.
And I have to be in church on Sunday. So I'll go in the morning, make sure I come back in the evening, and then I'm in church on Sunday. And I'm at work on Monday. So it doesn't disrupt anything.
I want your life. But okay, so you're, as you describe yourself, a pillar in the family, and I mean that's a very beautiful description for me, because I'm sure as we talk more about your work and what you do, we'll understand why that personality plays a key role in your day-to-day job. But you just mentioned that you're in church on Sunday, so that brings me to my next question. Growing up, was religion a big thing in your home?
Oh yeah,
because
that was the only thing.
You feel like you're blessed, and I just feel like you're a church boy.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was the only thing, more or less, because my father prays a lot, even in his 90s. You're calling him and he's praying for you. And so growing up, but I also have I have a very well-rounded experience of these things. We used to go to White Garment Church when I was growing up. That was what but then my father started off as an Anglican. That was where we have in our hometown, the Anglicans. But over time, we've moved from White Garment churches to Orthodox churches, Anglican, and then also to Pentecostal. Wow. So right now I belong to a Pentecostal church, and I'm blessed to be an active member of the church.
Of the church.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were old enough to remember what was causing the movement from the different churches, through Anglican, other Orthodox churches, and finally to Pentecostal. Do you understand why that was happening?
Well, with the benefit of hindsight, of course, it's my dad's decision. But you see, when I grew up with my mother for my first 12, 13 years, so my mother used to worship in CAC, that's Christ Apostolic Church.
Absolutely.
And
also very popular in Ghana.
Okay. And that's with my mom, with my grandmother, and my great-grandmother.
So it's a generational church.
Yeah, so, and I recall when I was like 4, 5, 6, we wake up in the morning. I used to go with my grandmother. She used to take me to church 5 a.m. in the morning. They have 5 a.m. prayers, 1 hour, we'll go and come back. So I still remember that very vividly. And all of that I stayed with. So when I moved towards my dad, and I can remember maybe, they have some problems in some churches, they might have challenges, and then so we can move from. So we have about 2 or 3 White Garment churches that we actually moved from one to the other before eventually landing back at the Orthodox church where it started from, which is the Anglican church. Then when I moved on to be on my own, I went to the university. I was in a campus fellowship for a while, and then thereafter I landed in the Pentecostal movement thereafter on my own.
Okay. Yeah. It's obvious that you have wonderful parents, on both sides. But let's talk about what it was like growing up with your mom for the first, as you say, 12, 13 years of your life. You mentioned earlier that the area she was living in wasn't so privileged, and that's something you're grateful for because it's allowed you to experience the not so privileged side of life. What was it like growing up with your mom?
My mom was the best person ever.
Your mommy's boy.
Yeah. I was my mom's favorite. I mean, among everybody, she took very good care of me, but also she was also determined that I'm going to turn well. And so there was a lot of discipline attached to it. Then she was a very strong character, very strong. Everybody around knows her. And in those days, if you see a woman driving a pickup truck, you know that she's a strong person.
Wow.
That was what she
in the
was,
70s and 80s.
Yes,
wow.
that was what she was driving. And so that was what I grew up with. And then she was a business person. And then she would give anything in life for me. And something very interesting was that when I finished university and I was, doing a bit of this and that, she put a lot of pressure on me to get married and all of that. That did not happen, and then anybody she sees, they say, talk to him about this and that.
You say you won't marry you.
Yeah. But eventually, I think a year before she passed, I was able to bring my wife home. And then somehow it also happened that I was able to bring a car home for her. And that was just a year before she passed. And I'm very happy that I did not delay that. Because if I delayed that, it would have been a source of regret. So she took very good care of me. She was a disciplinarian, a very, very strong disciplinarian. But I also remember as a child, I was also a bit, I had some pranks. Because she used to sell drinks, so I can go behind when she's not there. We'll pack the bottles, go and sell, get the money for something else.
Yes, so you're a businessman.
Yes.
Wonderful story. So I wanted to take a break now so we can sit down and have some drinks. You're still watching Diplomatic License on City TV. My guest today is His Excellency Ni Ojulape. He is the country rep for the UNFPA. That's the United Nations Population Fund here in Ghana. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching Diplomatic License right here on City TV. My name is Apioko, and if you just joined us, you must know that my guest is His Excellency Ni Ojulape. He is the country rep for the UNFPA here in Ghana, the United Nations Population Fund. And we'll be talking very soon about what that means and what this particular agency of the UN does. But Ni, we've been talking about you and growing up with your mom and your siblings and your dad, who is a retired judge. And your story is fascinating. Your story is fascinating. But let's move forward a little. So, mommy's boy, she wanted you to be the best person that you could be. She raised you with a strong hand. You went to some of the best schools, basic school and high school. Let's talk about your university years. What did you want to study? What were your favorite subjects, and how did that influence what you chose to do in the university?
That's another very interesting part of my life. And I'll tell you, when I was coming out of secondary school, I was an average or just a bit above average student, so not outstanding. I never come first before in school, so I wasn't outstanding as the best or anything at all. But then I was doing very well, and by the time I approached the point whereby we needed to do the WASC, that's the West African School Certificate exams, I was supposed to do good. But it happened that I took the exams. I had the right number of credits that I should have, but then there was a particular one for which I was supposed to have at least a credit in economics, so it didn't work out.
Wow.
In Nigeria, we used to have, for you to go to the university, you have to take two exams. There's what we call, there is the WASC, which is the GCE level, then also the JAM.
Okay. Is it still the same, or it's changed now?
Yes, it's still the same. So JAM is what you need. That's the direct university exams itself. Okay. That's university matriculation exam. So the JAM results will normally come out first. So the JAM results came out, and I did very well. I scored, I recall, 262 out of 400, and that is usually very well. And particularly for mathematics, because I still believe I am, very numerate. For mathematics, I scored 82%. So JAM had gone well, and I'd gotten admission in the University of Lagos.
Okay.
University of Lagos is one of the best schools.
Absolutely.
I mean, the
It's the
main
school to
schools,
go
the
to.
school to go to. Yes, they have a lot of. I mean, a lot of good things to say about University of Lagos. So WAEC results came out. I didn't have the credit. I didn't have the credit in economics, so I couldn't go to university.
Wow.
It was heartbreaking for my father.
Wow.
Same for my mother, but then my mother was a very strong woman, so she was the one that said, "Oh, don't worry, you do. It doesn't matter. Oh, yeah, everything." So she was the one that encouraged me, and then so I had to go back to secondary school again to take the WASC exam again. So
Did you have to do the whole exam or just the whole thing?
We had to take the whole thing, yes.
Wow.
So it's what we call a retake. So I had to go back to school and being a student, wearing uniforms again and all of that. And looking back, it was perhaps the year in which I played the most. When I say play, as in, we didn't really come to terms with the academics of it, because we were going, and it was quite a number of things. But you know what? When the results came out, it was a year in which I had the best. I had 8 A's straight. It was surprising to myself and that is what lends credence in my life, in the real sense of it, to that, to what the Bible says in Ecclesiastes 9:11, that says that the race is not to the swift, not to the strong, because that year was the year in which I was actually not really
you were not swift.
Doing well, yes. So I had the best result in the school. I had 8 A's.
The whole school?
Yes. And that was very, very, very interesting. So I came out of it. And then the next thing, looking for schools to go to, I ended up in Ondo State University. Ondo State University is not in the league of University of Ibadan, University of Lagos, and the ABU and all of that. But it's a state university, and so
and
which
it's at home. It's in your home state.
But it's in my home state, and so. But then I'm proud to have come out of that school, even though I did not make it to like Ife, Ibadan, and Unilag that everybody wanted us to, because I think there is an unseen hand there that is to which, for me, looking back, it's to always bring one to the reality that it's not, you are getting these not because you are doing well. It's because God has just decided that, oh, this is the way you should go. So coming out of school too, I just did my own modest stuff and came out of university with my, what we call 2-2 goalless draw.
So what did you study at Ondo State?
I studied banking and finance.
Okay.
Actually, I wanted to study...
So still with the numbers?
Yeah. I actually wanted to study accounting. But then that year they were supposed to start accounting in our school, but they didn't, it wasn't possible. So the next was banking and finance. So it was the best in the circumstances.
Okay.
But first things first, I actually wanted to become a lawyer. That's when I was growing up as a small boy.
You wanted to follow your dad's footsteps?
Yes, I really loved law. I still do. I mean, and I was very, very conversant with what is. In fact, I used to go to the court where my father was a judge, and I'll enter the courtroom, I'll just be watching. And then the man will look at me, okay, maybe there is a problem, he will rise, please, he will take a short adjournment, he will call me and say, what's happening? No, I just came to watch. And it made him very, very happy. And today, maybe that's why my wife is a lawyer. My father is a lawyer. I have 2 siblings that are lawyers. My mother-in-law is also a judge. Oh, wow. By the way. So, and I have too many friends that are lawyers.
But why didn't you study law? I mean, if that's what you really wanted to do, why didn't it materialize?
My father didn't encourage me. Because he felt, at that time, he felt that the lawyers of those days, they were not matured enough. And so he encouraged me to say, go take a course of study first, and then you can take law later. Okay. But by the time I went to school, I studied banking and finance. I came out. Everything then was how to get a job and to go on with life. Later in life, I think I enrolled in the University of London. I started a law program. I started the first year, but I couldn't continue because of the pressures of my workers at that time. I was working with the chief executive that was working 24 hours a day, and so I couldn't really cope, so I had to stop that.
Okay, so you studied banking and finance,
Yeah.
and then you just launched yourself into the world of work. What was your first job?
Did I even have a job? My life is a very interesting one. When I finished from university, I have an uncle who used to live in Lagos, and he was a management consultant and also an account. He had an accounting firm and a management consultancy firm. So I went to stay with him. So service year and all of that, so I was with him. So he was also a business person. So I was primarily supposed to be working with him in his accounting firm and also in management consultancy firm and all of that. But then we're doing business. So you really cannot say that I got a job because I wasn't paid any salaries. I was living in his house. I was being taken care of by him in every way. But after some time, I really wanted a corporate place in which I could work. And that was proving difficult. So then at some point in time, because there were a couple of domestic issues, so I couldn't go ahead with my uncle anymore. I had to branch out, and then I was looking for a job, but at the same time, I was doing everything. And sister, I can tell you, I've done so many things. I've sold, I've been a trader, like I say, I've done forever living products. I've vended that. I've also done agency. What do you call it now? House.
Real estate.
Real estate. I've done many things. I've sold. I've gotten on trucks to go from Nigeria all the way to Lome to the wheat, to the flour mills there to buy wheat offals and all of that. So I've done quite a lot in that space, but God was preparing me for something then, because it took, so all of that time, I was also still seeking a job. But by the time it got to the point, year 8 or 9 that I'd left school, if you apply to anywhere, it's too late. You're too old.
You're too old.
We don't need you.
So how old were you at this point?
Sorry?
How old were you at this point?
I was still a young person. I'm talking about 27, 28 and all of that. But it took all of 12 years after I'd finished university before I got a job, before I got my real first job, which is what brought me here. So 12 years with a lot of, I would say, perseverance. I was doing all sorts of things. But then it was by divine arrangement that I didn't get a job. And the week in which I got got the job that brought me that brought me here, I got 2 offers of a job. Then I read banking and finance. I got a job in a bank. They asked me to come in Nigeria to come to work in a bank. I tried. I wanted to take, but then my boss, who employed me then, also the job which led me here, also called me that week. And because I used also to write well, because I used to read far and wide. Even up to now, I tend to.
You did mention some time ago that you love literature.
Oh yeah, I used to read very well. So my boss called me. Then he gave me an assignment. For the first time, he just said, "We want to write something about HIV in Nigeria. Write something for us." I didn't know anything about HIV, but I did a bit of research. And the internet and Google was not.
Do you remember which year this was?
This was 2002.
Okay, so this is around the time the whole HIV/AIDS conversation is becoming popular on the continent in Africa, but still Google and the rest are not so popular.
We're not so popular. Right? So, but I just went to put something down, and by the time I brought it the next day, it was very fascinating. And he said, okay, so we'll continue to work. And that was it.
How did you do your research?
He said, if you need anything, ask Dr. Ibrahim Atta, who was with us then. So that one did me a bit of, so I was able to put it together. And so I got that job. So I became a program assistant in the HIV/AIDS program in Nigeria, which metamorphosed into the National Agency for the Control of AIDS. I left from there. My boss, who was the Director General then, I was program assistant. From program assistant, I became his personal assistant. From being personal assistant, I became communications coordinator. And from them, I became special assistant to the Director General. Then he was appointed as minister. Automatically, we went together. I became special assistant to the minister. Then he went to UNFPA in New York. And then that's why I came.
You followed him there. So,
and with the benefit of hindsight, I just thank God that I did not get a job before then. I thank God that I did not take up the banking job, that I rather followed development, because My colleagues in the banking sector, of course, they are richer than they have a lot of money, but then the experience that I have and the exposure that I've had, which is of a global nature,
they definitely don't
rare.
have that. Yeah. How important would you say it is? And I want you to speak to the young people who are watching us, you know, not just in Ghana, but globally and continent-wide. How important is it to take the experiences that come your way when you're job searching as a young person to make sure that when the opportunity that is supposed to be yours comes to you, you can take it and excel at it?
That's a loaded question because you're asking me to look at it at the macro level,
Yeah.
and also to relate with individuals at the micro level.
Absolutely.
What I would say at the micro level will probably not make sense. And why am I saying that is that I'm a man of faith. And so for all intents and purposes, honestly, what I would advise any young person to do is to hold on to your God and pray. Hold on to your God, then you will get guidance. You will know what to do. With the right thing to do, because if you have appropriate guidance in terms of this is where to go, this is what to do part time, you will not miss it. You'll be able to fulfill your destiny. But at the micro level, you have a number of millions of young people that are not in a position to get their jobs. I mean, to get jobs, not
to interrupt, but we have drinks from our friends at Alisa, so.
Okay. Thank you. The opportunities are not there in the quantities in which they are needed. So, in the circumstances, we go back to government. The government should create. Government has a responsibility to create the enabling environment to unleash the potentials that we have in the society, especially in young people, to make these things happen. Now, two things from there. There are no jobs, and we want opportunities. Young people are looking for jobs, and you are telling them, okay, go to create opportunities for yourselves and all of that. It's not that easy. And I've seen many people talk about startups. You give the young person a training about the startup, and then you give them, say, okay, because it's a startup, we're going to give you just a small amount, maybe $5,000 or what have you. You've forgotten that from this $5,000, this guy is going to be feeding from there.
Absolutely.
He's going to be paying his rent from there. And
maybe even taking care of family. If you're in Africa, it's likely, right?
So you're not really going to get a lot of results from that. So the real thing is but there are different ways in which there are different opportunities that exist out there apart from just getting people to do this. And that's where agriculture is. People don't understand the issue of agriculture. Agriculture is the easiest thing for us to deal with. But we look at agriculture from the hindsight of subsistence farming.
Right.
But it's a business which people can invest into and be able to. If I see a young person, I'm going to be who doesn't have a job and doesn't know what to do, I'm going to ask, have you thought of this? If you take agriculture as a business and you go into it, because I know those who are providing resources to make people to go there and do whatever is required, and they'll make money from it and they'll be okay. But at the macro level, it's not an easy thing because the government, they mean well, they want to provide for everybody, but it's
they
not
can't. Right.
Now, finally, let me mention something that is important. You see, we as a population and development experts, we look at this and say, oh, we have a large population. We have a large population of young people who are largely dependent. And that is the problem. That is the percentage of the population that we have who are gainfully employed and who take care of the dependent population is small relative to those who are dependent. So it creates a problem there. But if we can fix that problem, and I'll tell you a couple of things that we can use to fix that problem, which is embedded in the concept about demographic dividend.
Okay.
If we can fix that problem, it's an opportunity for us to actually boom. Because you have huge population of people that are just coming up. If we can gainfully employ them, if we can make sure that they are gainfully engaged, they will be fine. And there are 5 major pillars that talks about the achievement of the harnessing of the possibility of a demographic dividend.
Okay.
It ranges from good governance to education. Education is most important, but not just education, appropriate education, especially in terms of technology that we're talking about these days. Then there is health. And you look at it also from part of family planning. You must be able to plan your family. If you can't take care of 5 children, don't have 5 children. So we'll give you information. We also give you the services. What do you need to do? What are you able to do if you want to have sex without having children? We provide the information for you. Yeah. And also the services so that you can make it happen.
Okay. I mean, when a population expert speaks, then everything begins to come together. Yeah. We're going to go on a break soon, but before we do, I mean, you ended up working with this gentleman who, I mean, the man of faith you are, knows, I won't say you believe, you know, was placed strategically in your path so that you could tap into the opportunity that's your destiny. Okay. At some point, you went to school in Italy. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. When did that happen?
That was not too long ago, about 2 or 3 years ago.
But why did you choose Italy? I mean, earlier when we were having our conversation, you spoke about how in 1982 you watched the Super Eagles play, you know, and then you watched Italy play. You watched Italy,
I just watched
in the World Cup.
Yes.
So you watched Italy play, and you admired the way. I think they won in that year.
Yes.
Did that experience back then have anything to do with your wanting to go to Italy? I'm curious.
Okay, no, not anything to do with that. Let me tell you, my schooling in Italy was just that an opportunity came up.
Okay.
And for which I could apply to that school as at that time. You know, there is a way things work together, and you know, no, this is it for me at this point. That's why I went to Italy. But you mentioned something. It's always a delight for me to speak about that man that you mentioned. His name is Professor Babatunde Oshotimei. He was the executive director of UNFPA from 2011 to 2017 when he passed. Before then was Nigeria's Minister of Health. And before being Minister of Health, was Director General of the National AIDS Control Agency. And I worked with him for increasingly, consistently, all through for 15 years, a total of 15 years. And when I say I work with him personally. Like, we were very, very, very close. I can even tell you, the day he died, his first son was there. And they asked him, they wanted to ask him a couple of questions. And I said, just wait. Let me call you the person who will be able to answer your questions. So the guy called me, and I was living 1 hour, 7 minutes away in New Jersey. It was in New York. So I was living 1 hour, 7 minutes, and everything stayed until I came. So for you to
waited for you to come?
Yes, for me. Nobody could do anything until I got there. And so we were very, very close. Our relationship extended beyond that of boss to that of a father and son. Then at some point, when you talk about the religious issues, he also used to call me pastor. And then at some point, he called me, my pastor. Then before we go out, this is my boss. We work together. Before we go out to attend an event, he said, pray before we go, you know. So we're very, very close, and we're working together. With him, I had gotten to the point where I could do no wrong. So I had to mind myself, but it was also a disciplined person, an expert when you're talking about the issues of population and development, and also the issues of gender and the protection of the rights of the adolescent girl. He had 4 girls and a boy.
So you learned from one of the best.
Oh yes, from the best.
At the feet of the best. And now we're going to go for a break. When we come back, I'll ask you about this issue of your former boss, your late boss, calling you pastor. I'll ask you about that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're still watching Diplomatic License on City TV. My name is Apioko. I've been speaking to the country rep of the UNFPA, the United Nations Population Fund here in Ghana, Ni Ojo Lape. We'll be right back. So it's time to have lunch with my guest here on Diplomatic License on City TV. My name is Apioko, and if you just joined us, you're extremely late, but it's okay. We're about to have a Nigerian lunch in honor of my guest, His Excellency, me, and I look. Let me just tell you something. So I didn't know what to choose for lunch, but we decided that we were going Nigerian. We were hoping that's something that you actually like. So there's Samalina fufu, there's eba, and then there's afang soup and egusi soup. Are they things that you like?
Thank you for going to great lengths to identify the kind of delicacy that will actually make me very happy. So this comes to me naturally, and I relate with these ones very, very well. Eba is what I make very easily, and so it's one of the most consistent items on my menu.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And I know you like going to Buka, so the food is from Buka. I don't know if you've eaten any of these things there before.
Yes, I've taken these ones.
Okay, I have to start following you there.
Buka is actually not far from my office, and and when I'm going home in the evening, it's one of the places that I can just pass by.
Yeah.
And I know them there in Buka.
And I'm sure they know you. Okay, well, I'm glad we made a good choice. And of course, we're here at the Alisa Hotel Northridge in Accra. They're hosting us today. So before we start eating, I promised you that I was going to ask you a question before we went on the break. At some point, your former boss, your late boss, may he rest in peace, and your mentor, he was calling you pastor. And I know we spoke a lot about your spirituality, the God factor in your life, and how those things have come together to bring you where you are, and the reverence you give to those situations. But why was he calling you pastor? Are you a pastor?
If we, I don't want to make the mistake of leading us to believe that I'm a saint, because I have several of my imperfections that I'm still working on. But it's he used to call me pastor because we started up doing religious. He saw me starting on the religious line. Okay. When I became an usher in church, when I became a minister and all of that, he was familiar with all of that. So over time, increasingly, so he was calling me pastor. Initially, just to make a jest of me and just to get at me, and was pulling my legs with calling me a pastor. But over time, I think he became increasingly serious about my being called a pastor. So, and I don't want you to take it too far to say, he's a pastor. I'm just a worker in church, and it's basically the fellowship that we used to enjoy. Okay. That was where the pastor came from.
Okay. So what kinds of work do you do in church? You just mentioned ushering. Is that something you still do? Is it something you've always done? What kind of work do you do in church?
Naturally, for me, I'm a very active person when there's a ceremony. I always have an eye for getting things right. So even if it's not my event, once I'm in a ceremony, I can easily look around, see what are the issues there, what is wrong, what can I help with. As a matter of fact, there's a colleague of mine that says, when you get there, don't go and be arranging chairs, because I can easily do that. So in church, it came to me naturally. So I started off as an usher. I became head of the ushering unit, and then eventually I also became a Sunday school teacher. Sunday school being Bible study in church on Sunday, and then we get people together in small groups and work together.
Okay, and this is still in the Pentecostal church?
Yes, in the Pentecostal church. And just to clarify, like I said, don't go looking at me. When people see me, let them not think, oh, he's the pastor, and so you're supposed to be behaving in this particular way, because I'm not made in that mold. I don't come across as pious, saintly, and serious, and my free-spirited nature does not allow me to box myself into that.
Well, you can pastor in different ways. You can evangelize in different ways. And I mean, the work you do, even with the United Nations Population Fund, it's pastoring in one way or another. You know, and we'll talk more about that. There's so much to talk about. You know, much to talk about. We'll talk more about that. But let's talk about family now. So we spoke a lot about how you ended up on the path that has led you to be the country rep for the UNFPA in Ghana, right? But we haven't spoken much about your family. You did mention that before your mom passed away, one of the things she really wanted was for you to get married, and
Yeah.
you finally took a wife home to her
Yeah.
the year before she passed away. So let's talk about your family. Yeah.
That's my own. I have different types of family. I have my own nuclear family. That's neo-geographic. And then I have an extended family, both on the father's and the mother's side. I have a social family.
Okay.
I have different types of family. I have the church family. And the church family, the cord of the church family is also very, very strong. And so it depends on which one. Which one do you like?
So let's
would
start
like to talk
from
about?
nuclear family.
Okay.
Wow, we also get
I'm
ready
privileged.
to
I'm blessed. I have. I'm the husband of one wife.
Was that always the plan, or you wanted to be a polygamist?
No. I just have one wife and many friends, and then of course I never really. I mean, then God has blessed us with 3 children, 3 boys, and
Oh, you have all boys?
yes,
Wow. How old are they?
it's 14, 12, and 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's it like raising boys?
Let me give the credit to my wife, because I've not really been the type that has been at home fully in all that I do. Even when we're living together in a place, I mean in New York, I was always spending a lot of time in the office at work. It comes naturally to me to spend extra hours at work. So the raising and all of that, the details and all of that, my wife actually has been good in looking after that. But I always try my best to be part of the game. So I go to school whenever I have the opportunity. They have something in school, I'm there. And also God has blessed us with the resources, I mean, from the financial side, to be able to look after them. And they are, to the glory of God, they are doing good.
It sounds wonderful. So do you want a bit of the eba, a bit of the semolina? I should give you all the eba, since that's one of your favorites.
I'll leave the choice to you. So which one do you prefer?
But you're my guest.
I agree, but then you're a lady, I have to treat you like a lady.
Well, I like both, so I
both.
don't mind.
So you take
any of
one.
them.
Just take a go at one now. I'll be fine.
Okay, let me take the semolina.
You take
Since
the
I know you
semolina, okay.
like the eba.
Okay. Are you sure?
Is that the
This
right
is the
one? Okay, that's the
semolina.
semolina.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is the eba.
You have the trained eye. And this is our fang soup. That's the egusi. Which one?
You can take. I'm sure you're not going to finish any one. So neither am I. So I can take. Maybe I'll probably take the
Or
afang
do a bit
soup.
of both. Okay, so you want the afang soup.
So go ahead, please.
You are my guest, though.
And it's a difficult thing to eat before the camera, so I'm going to try.
Please feel free.
I'm going to try.
Feel free. You know, when Africans, wherever we are, our food has to represent. You know, it's very important.
Yeah.
So, I think everybody who's watching us knows that. Okay, so this is the afang soup.
Okay. Please, do you want to get served?
I should get some first? Okay, so then you can start with the egusi.
Okay. It's very interesting, you know. I think CDTV. this is something like I can say, okay, maybe I've not seen it before, but then it's really looking.
We've taken you by surprise.
Honestly, it's coming on really nicely.
Okay.
Now, I have to be very careful. It's really nice. It's looking very,
Yeah,
very
it looks
nice.
really good. The afang soup smells good too.
Oh.
So are these things that you grew up eating?
Well, yes. I mean, these are staple delicacies
Thank you.
in Nigeria. And so I grew up.
Okay. So I want you to take your soup and then. Should we use it with our hands or should we use fork and knife?
Well, I always prefer to use fork.
I'll let the choice be yours.
Yes, I always prefer to use fork and knife.
Okay, so you use fork
Yes,
and
I
knife.
use the cutlery.
Good, good.
Okay.
So we're set.
Yes, please.
All right. Yeah, when you're dishing African food, you need to take your time and dish it. You need to pause the conversation and give the respect to the food. So let's continue. So, I mean, you're full of gratitude to your wife for helping to make sure that your 3 boys are raised the way they have to be raised. Bon appetit.
Well, I'll usually pray. So
Okay, yes,
it's a
please
very
go
simple
ahead.
prayer.
Yes. Okay, what's the prayer?
Bless this food, O Lord, for Christ's sake. Amen.
Amen.
So,
I love it. Okay. So your wife has done a brilliant job in holding the family together as you travel around. But do they live with you in Ghana?
no.
They don't.
But I have 2 of my boys in Ghana. They're in boarding school in Tema.
Okay.
So they live with me in Ghana, but they're not living. We don't live in
The
same
same house. Okay. And your other son, where is he?
He's in New York.
Okay, with your wife.
With my wife, yeah.
Okay. So do you get to? I mean, you've been in Ghana since 2017, and you've been at Post since 2017.
Yeah,
have you been able to see the other parts of your nuclear family often enough?
Oh yeah. Oh, I travel quite a lot, but for COVID, we'll be together every other month.
Okay.
So I just came back from New York last week.
Okay.
Yes.
And what was the COVID period like? Because parts of your family is not here, borders were closed globally. How did you manage that period as a family?
Technology has made everything easy these days. So we get to speak every day, and we communicate, and then there was a lot of work that we needed to do during COVID, so that took a lot of. So I was at home, and I was working a lot, and the work actually covers for it. So there's really no, in my life, there's really no space for. There's no vacuum.
Okay.
I'm very busy all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now let's talk about your other families. We've spoken about, let me qualify that before people think we have other nuclear families. We spoke about your nuclear family, your wife and your 3 boys.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about your extended family. And earlier we mentioned how being in Ghana allows you to travel to Nigeria more easily. So you can do a Nigerian wedding or a funeral or whatever event it is and come back to Ghana and be at work on Monday, right? All in one weekend. Who are some of the key people in your extended family who, of course, I'm sure your father is one, but beyond him, who are some of the key people in your extended family who play a big role in your life and who are very important to you?
Yes, I have my dad. Then I have my siblings. My siblings are very, very important because there are quite a number of them that were very close. Very close, as in we speak every day. And so there's one of my siblings who lives in Lagos. So whenever I'm in Lagos, I'm in his house. And he'll be there at the airport to pick me up.
Wow.
He's my chief protocol officer in Lagos. So if I have something to do outside of Lagos or even in Lagos anywhere, he leaves everything he's doing and he's with me. So we are that close. So he is important to me too. And then I have especially my female siblings. We get along well together. Then my elder brother who lives in Abuja, not in Lagos, who lives in Abuja, in Nigerian parlance, we are 5 and 6. And when I say 5 and 6, that we are that close. Because in age also we are the closest. Okay. So in so many.
So he's the one who is, I think you mentioned 53 or so.
Yeah, 52. He's going to be 52 later this year.
So. You're like twins who are born maybe a year and some apart.
Yes. Less than 12 months.
Less than 12
Just
months.
a bit less than 12
Wow.
months.
Wow. Wow.
Yes, we are that close. But so then, of course, my father, my stepmother, my mother-in-law. I mean, we have to relate with them. I relate with each one of them. As a matter of, there is nobody I don't relate to. That's also a big burden that I have to bear, and I get along with them. My mother's immediate younger sister. She's in Chicago in the U.S. Of course, she's also old, so I have to find a way also to relate to them. So we get along with everybody.
You're doing well.
Yes.
And now let's talk about you mentioned you have a social family, you have a church family. Which one should we talk about first?
Let's talk about the church family.
Okay, church family.
I have, and don't forget that I used to be in a church in New York. So I still have a very, very strong link to the church in New York.
How long were you in New York for?
I was in New York for 7 years.
For 7 years, okay. So that's a long time, and I'm sure very strong bonds were formed. Yeah.
Now, the other part of it is that in New York, we have our church, and then we were now asked to go plant another parish in Manhattan, that's in the heart of the city. So it's a smaller family that we're all close together. So we still maintain. I attend the services every Sunday, virtually. So
wow, of course. Again, technology makes it possible.
Yes, and I was there 2 weeks ago. I was there physically, and then so we're very close. And when I say we are very close, we follow each other. We're on WhatsApp group. We're seeing each other, following everyone. And if anybody needs anything or I need things, there are people that I can always call. There was a day my wife was not feeling well. She couldn't go out by herself. It was just a phone call to somebody, and somebody was very close there who was able to come and take care of her. So the church family is one. And my church family here in Accra too, is a big church. So the congregation, I think I get along with quite a number of people, brothers and sisters and ministers too. I have to be a minister in church. So we all, I mean, and you know what it takes, everything about the family. Somebody needs help, you need help. Somebody is celebrating, you celebrate with them. Somebody is mourning also, you are there to provide support in different ways. So we relate very well with each other.
Wonderful.
With the church family. Then my social family.
I like the it's heavy.
I have one friend of mine, my social family. His name is John Michael. So he's the one that shows me the way, shows me around in this town. And so we'll go out together.
Where's he from? Is he Ghanaian?
He's Ghanaian,
okay.
yeah. So he's Ghanaian. He's the life of the party. Very popular around. He has a lot of people. He has a large circle of friends. So he's the one who tells me it's going to be happening on Thursday at Starbucks. Let's see there. There is karaoke here and there, and I managed to also do that to get everything, because you need to have a balanced life. You need to know what is happening in town. You need to know how to mix with people, because I have the gift of getting along with people. I'm free-spirited, like I've said before, though some people also, in some places, some people look at me like an introvert. You'll be surprised.
That's interesting.
Anyway, but I get along. So my social family, so we have friends like that we relate with together. We meet together for catch up, have a drink and all that. So I have quite a number of people like that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So we're getting to the end of episode 1, and definitely we're going to spend another week of screen time together. And I'm looking forward to meeting some of the young people you work with, who you are mentoring, inspiring in so many different ways. I mean, some of them are behind the cameras even today, and they're looking at it like, oh wow, I didn't know Boss's story. You know, and hopefully we get to speak to some of them on camera and see what they think about working with you. And then we'll talk more about your work with the UNFPA, important work you do, the fun work you do, the challenging work you do. But thank you so much for lunch, Nigerian lunch. I'm happy I made you happy with the selection. And we'll spend more time on camera again next week. So ladies and gentlemen, this has been Diplomatic License on City TV. I've been spending time with the country rep to Ghana of the UNFPA. He's an amazing gentleman, a Nigerian at heart, a feminist also. Yeah, and I'm sure next week you get to understand more about that. But an all-round great person who loves the Lord and works for the Spirit, really.
Thank you.
So we'll see you next week.
Thank you very much.